I'm gonna just go over some turning points. And you see how the same thing happens over and over again, right? Meaning how, when a turn happens, how supply overtakes demand or demand overtakes supply. So we'll just take a look at some turning points and focusing on springboards. And over here, I'm going to be looking at the SPY. So we'll take a look at this. And what do you note from in this downtrend? In this downtrend, what do you notice? Well, first thing is, how does the downtrend start, and even the prior uptrends, how do they start? They always start with some type of impulse. I mean, it's just always happens. All right? And some may say, oh, you know, we have to look for climaxes and shortening of thrust. Yes, those are things that you observe, but how the right-hand side starts, what the delimiter between the left-hand side and the right-hand side is the change of behavior, which is right there. And I'll show you this all the time, all day, on multiple trends. So here, you see the market goes up. Yes, there's a shortening of the thrust right here. Very clear, but it means nothing until there's a change of behavior. So you have that shortening of the thrust right there. Then you have your change of behavior. Then you have follow through. Then you have some pullbacks to test the breakdown. And somewhere here you have like a what is called a lack of demand, and I don't know which one I would call a lack of demand. I mean, you see this one brick, this two brick. So any one of these could represent your lack of demand. So it's a little bit challenging. So I mean, if you use time, that may help a little bit, because you'll see from the perspective of time and price that you see, you know, all of that. So, or volume will also give it away. Anyway, so you have shortening of thrust, change of behavior, confirmation, pull back to test, right there. As it tests, it makes a lower low and continues to go down. As it goes down, how did this trend end? It ended with a climax. How did the prior trend end? It ended with a shortening of the thrust. So, I mean, those are the left-hand side behaviors. I should say left-hand side ending action is typically shortening of the thrust or climax or some type of effort. All right, so here shortening of the thrust and then bang. Here climax and then your change of behavior. And then after that, what do you expect? You have some follow through here, so you can mark that as confirmation. Although you want a little bit more, you know, confirmation, meaning more higher high, more bricks, more bars. And after that, here is a very, very, very important position. Every white cloud trader has to understand this position. This here is the springboard. So right there. Now right there is the springboard. How do you know it's a springboard? After the climax and COB, it starts grinding and testing and weakening. So you have like some type of extended, usually you have some type of little base, and you have the up and down clustered closes. That sets up the springboard, and this should be 1 or 2 bricks or 1 or 2 bars. And after that, boom. The real confirmation that the trend has changed is actually right here. That higher high right there, you know, that's it. That is telling you, it's forecasting the trend. That confirmation higher high after these behaviors is forecasting a significant uptrend. Here, it's a little bit difficult for me to tell because some will say that this is the change of behavior, and they're not wrong to say it, but in the midst of things, it's a little challenging. So, I mean, they will say that this is the SOT and this is the change of behavior, right? And once you say this is the change of behavior, then this grinding action here is, what is it? It is the springboard is in here. Some will say it's here, but I mean, that's the springboard. And this, they will say that this is the confirmation. And this is right out of, these turns are right out of the Wyckoff course that was written by him in his first study. I'm not making any of this stuff up. I'm just telling you what's already there in how Wyckoff explained turns and how Wyckoff explained the creation of trend, like from, uptrend or downtrend. Anyway, moving on. Here again, you have that change of behavior right here, and at this time you have your springboard up there. You have your change of behavior, you have your confirmation. Now, do I know that ahead of time that this is the change of behavior? I don't. I only know it in hindsight. But I know that once this is given, that the trend has changed, then it's not hindsight, and now I'm that's game over. So 1 second. So let's continue. So let's delete all this. So where is it? It's up here. We see a shortening of the thrust. Can't really tell, so forget it. I'm not gonna write it down, but the thrusts are shortening. The thrust, this grinding action is shortening. Anyway, who cares? Just take a look. Is there a climax? No. Is there a shortening thrust? Possibly. You see some grinding action. After that, what do you get? You get your COB. Where? Right here. After that, what do you get? You get your springboard. Where? Right here. After that, what you get your confirmation right there. Now, what does that mean? Trend has changed. You need to get in. Simple as that. Alright, so figure out how to get in. It's on you to know how to enter. Alright, now it's a very little trend. It's a little like pullback really on another time frame. But on a lower time frame, the higher time frame pullback on a lower time frame will look like a trend. Sometimes it's a very small trend or a counter trend. Alright, now over here again you have your change of behavior. Shit, what do I do? Damn it. Anyway, this is your climax. How do you know it's a climax? You don't know it's a climax. You don't. Alright, you don't know if it's going to continue to go down. So it doesn't mean jack shit until you have a change of behavior. Why the change of behavior? And I want to make this very clear because it's not explained by practitioners or Wyckoff, because I don't know why. But basically, the way you should understand it, and I'm going to explain this now for folks, is you have, 1 second. Imagine a turning point, right? Like either support point or resistance point. This is like the turning point. Okay, so this is your pivot. It goes down and then it turns and goes up. So market's going down and now it's going to go up. So it's a change in direction. So now we're going to examine what's going on in that pivot, in that turning point. What goes on in that turning point? The way I describe it, there's 3 pieces. All right, understand. There are 3 stages, pieces, whatever. 3 things you want to isolate. All right. The first is the left-hand side. The second is the delimiter between the left-hand side and the right-hand side. And then finally, it's the right-hand side. Now, understand the left-hand side, what constitutes behaviors that you will find on the left-hand side of a turning point. it is going to be either a climax, it's going to be a SOT, or some type of effort. That's it. So you want to basically focus in on climax and SOT, or some type of like high volume effort, which looks very much like a climax, but there's not a lot of price movement. So it's either high volume, which will come in the form of climax and effort, or it'll be in terms of price, it's going to be very little movement, very little higher high or very little lower low, which is going to be your SOT. Now, in the middle, you will always have your COB. Now, what means by COB is either your sign of strength or your sign of weakness. On the right-hand side, you will always have, not always, but it's just a matter of it's clear to you and whether you can see it or not. You will always have your lack of supply or lack of demand, and then your confirmation high or low. That's it. This is the real schematic of a turning point. This, what I'm showing you here now, is the real schematic of a turning point. This is what needs to be understood. Not that other, all those crazy things. This is what happens. This is what you need to know. And I'm putting it out on this channel, but do not for a second think that, just because I'm putting it out there, that it's like free material or something like that. This is the blueprint of a turning point. All right, this is it, and I'll show you over and over again. And those who are experts in Wyckoff, they know what this is. And anyway, where the hell am I? Delete. Right here. Okay. So here, all right, you have your climax. Do you know it's a climax? You don't know it's a climax until the change of behavior. What does that mean? That means you make the judgment on whether something is a climax or a SOT after you see a change of behavior. You don't do anything until you get a change of behavior. All right? All that other marking up, this trend line, this, that, is totally useless. You do not, you could do it, but in my opinion, it doesn't mean anything, and you could be totally wrong, and most of the time you will be wrong, and it means nothing until you get your change of behavior. So what should you be looking for when you're looking to trade or whatever? Is always the first step is look for change of behavior. Then the background will tell you. It will help validate that change of behavior because you have a climax or a shortening of the thrust. Like, for example, this one's not that clear. It doesn't have a climax. It doesn't really have a climax, but there's some shortening of the thrust. Here you have a climax, and then you have your change of behavior. And here again, you have your climax, and then you have your change of behavior. Here again, you have your climax and a change of behavior. Here you have some shortening of the thrust. If you don't have here's another question, and these are real practical questions that will help you know exactly what to look for in a simple way. 1, what is the first thing you look for? What do you look for? The answer is a change of behavior. All right? And then in the background, what do you look for in the background? What do you what do you look for afterwards? What do you look for after a COB? What do you look for? There you can get your climax or your SOT in the background, right? What else do you look for? If you do not see this, what is another thing that you can look for? Ooh, what is this? Maybe I should phrase it differently. What do you, damn it. What do you look for? Yeah. 1 second. 2. What do you look for after a COB? The answer is you look for on the left-hand side. What do you look for? Well, on the left-hand side, you look for a climax or SOT, and then on the right-hand side, you look for your springboard, which is the same thing as, at least in this case, LOD, lack of demand or lack of supply, and the most important thing, your confirmation. That's the answer. All right. So I want to make this very clear. What's the first thing you look for? Your COB. What is the second thing you look for? Is focusing on both the left-hand side and the right-hand side. On the left-hand side, you should have a climax or SOT. On the right-hand side, you should have your springboard and then your confirmation in the form of a higher, higher, low, low. That's it. And there you will see your trend change. Now, will it? All right. So what we're going to do is, all right. All right. I'll give an example here. First, you just mark them up as trends, because you have to mark them up as trends. That's your shakeout right there, right there. Some of this I just can't read, so just back off. This is a good example here. You have a trend, right? The first thing you do is you could look for a COB. All right, we have a COB. Do you know if this COB is a COB, or is it just some selling and profit taking? You don't know. That's why you start looking in the background, because the background will reveal the, whether it's a COB or not. Here we see that originally the COB came over here. Then you had shortening of the thrust in the background. There's no climax. Some may say this is the climax, but whatever. Then you have your right-hand side and you have your low lows. So if you don't take this, then after this, it's clearly the trend is broken. So take the short. Here, it's also very clear. You look for your COB. There you go. Then you look for the background, climax, okay, validates the COB, right-hand side, springboard, confirmation, higher high. All right. After that goes up, potential COB, you mark it, then what happens? Look at the left-hand side, there's no climax, I don't know what's going on, potential whatever. Wait for it, there is a springboard right at resistance. How do I know there's a springboard? Why? Because there's lack of demand. How do you tell? Because it's one bar, one green bar, and it has clustered closes. It looks like it's clustering. So that's, you know what that really means? It means that distribution or accumulation are completed. That right there, it's called springboard, but there's an actual meaning. And the meaning is that distribution or accumulation has completed. All right, so add that to your list of definitions. And after that, what do you know? After distribution being completed, you enter markdown. So that's what happens. So here you have COB, here's springboard, here's your confirmation, and then you just wait for it. So here, for example, you have your COB, you have some springboard here, then you have your confirmation. You've got to get in. Ding, 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 ding. Here is again possible COB. I don't see anything else. It's end of the day and end of the week. Alright, here again, you wait for it, COB, it's probably here, or here. You have COB, you have higher high, it's little, this is your end right here, springboard, and you take the long. I guess I really just can't tell. Can't tell. All right, long story short, you need to be able to understand what I just explained. By understanding, it's like this. You have a trend. And this, I know it's oversimplification, right? Everybody knows that realistically, you don't get higher highs and higher lows, you know, it's not that simple. It just isn't. You will get lower lows and lower highs, and then it will reestablish the trend. But assuming that this is your trend, you want to know how to get in here. You want to know how to exit at the highs and buy at these points here, these pullbacks. You want to know that. In order to understand that, I'm explaining what happens here. So what happens here, the way I explain it, is we're going to take three pieces. There's going to be a left-hand side. There's going to be a delimiter. Between the left-hand side and the right-hand side. All right, so three pieces to the turn. There are three stages. All right, the first, second, and third. What you want to do is immediately focus on the delimiter and look at your COB. Once you have your COB, you can check the background of the left-hand side, at which you will notice either climax or a, SOT. Climax or SOT. Yes, you can also have effort, but just keep it simple, climax or SOT. Effort will look like just like climax in terms of high volume. So in terms of volume, you look for heavy volume. In terms of price, you look for weak price action in the form of small thrust. And on the right hand side, you will notice your springboard, which was the same thing as a lack of demand, or LOD, LOS, lack of supply, and your confirmation. If you understand this, this is This is the process of a turn. This is the process of a turn. The left-hand side, the limit of the right-hand side, step 1, 2, 3. This is the process of a turn that I'm explaining here. And this, in my opinion, is the rail schema of a turning point. Bingo. Alright, I hope you learned something. Take care. Have a good time. It's Saturday night. Alright, bye.